All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. We are going to be talking about how we have helped so many people overcome knee pain and get back to running. It is without doubt one of probably the most popularized topics within running, unfortunately. Knee pain is just comes part and parcel with, whether you're someone who wants to run faster, you want to run longer. Knee pain, it just seems to kind of creep up on some of us. Sometimes it comes out of the blue. And we want reasons, we want to understand why. A lot of people come to us with kind of exhibiting different types of symptoms in and around the knee, the front, the side, behind the kneecap, behind the back of the knee. A lot of information out there that is kind of being pushed in terms of like the key exercise. This is what you need to be doing. Do this 1, 2, 3 things. Guys, any of you that have been following and listening to us on this podcast and following what we do at Strength for Endurance, I don't want to BS you. I want to be able to take you through some of the key things that you want to be doing on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis within your own training lifestyle to not only get over knee pain, but to prevent it in the long term. Like injuries, as I will always say, is part of the training narrative. You're always going to be having to navigate and prevent the onset of injury because we are all looking to push ourselves. We have a level of expectation on our body. We are going to be going through some of the key fundamentals that are going to really help you navigate, move past knee pain, but also, guys, prevent it in the long term. Being able to ward away those symptoms from manifesting because you're going to double down on some of these key things that we're going to be discussing today. So, guys, number one, addressing the elephant in the room, which is the fact that you're probably getting a little bit stiffer, a little bit older. So your mobility, your flexibility, it has to be something that's right at the top of the list of your to-do on a week-to-week basis. If you love to run, you love to ride, there's like an ongoing joke that, your flexibility and mobility, for a lot of people, is not great. Being able to hinge at the hips, touch your toes, being able to kind of widen your legs, moving into that kind of splits position. Not talking the full splits here. I'm talking about widening your stance to 2x, 3 times the width of shoulder width. Being able to then hinge at the hip and feel that stretch through your adductors. Like, these ranges of motion should be somewhat available to you. You should be able to move through good range of motion. If it's not, this is going to be one of the main leading contributors, because if you are allowing your posterior chain, those muscle groups through your adductors, your hamstrings, up into your lower back, your quadratus lumborum, your glutes, and all those areas, if they are being overly worked, and then you're then going to be sitting down behind a desk, spending a lot of time in a sedentary position, guys, the obvious is the fact that we are you're condensing all that musculature in and around your hip complex. That then leads down into the knee, the back of the knee, the side of the knee, the front and the dance, the quadriceps, the hip flexors. It's going to compromise everything. Your mobility has to be right at the top, and it doesn't need to be. You don't need to be doing 3 yoga sessions 3 times a week. You don't need to be a Pilates master. You just need to have adequate range of motion through these muscle groups. Being able to sit into a relatively deep squat pain-free without having that tension that's running through your quads, your knees, your lower back. This is going to take time. Do you have a dynamic warm-up routine? Funnily enough, we like to brainwash everyone we work with at SFE. Every single one of them will be literally able to recite some of the key kind of dynamic warm-up and mobility exercises, because they are just there in abundance, all littered throughout their training week, within their S&C work, within their pre-run, pre-ride, post-run kind of activities or kind of recovery sessions, because you just want it to be autonomous behavior, working on your mobility, working on that flexibility inside the groin, working on those adductor group, working on your hamstrings. Like, yes, your quadriceps, your hip flexor group, like all of those areas just need to be little and often worked on, maintenance level. So mobility right at the top of this tree in terms of helping you with knee pain. I cannot tell you guys how many people we've helped resolve kind of niggly knee pain because we've alleviated a lot of the stress in and around the quadriceps. Put a 30% of your body weight through a foam roller and lie on top of a foam roller with 30% of your body weight. You'll notice that it'll probably take your breath away because you've got so much tension running through your quadriceps. Guys, because we overly use them at times. We put a lot of work through them. They are going to accumulate a lot of restriction. What are you doing on a daily, weekly basis to be working on those areas? All right, we've got to be working on it. So what are you doing? Myofascial release work. But more importantly, are you working on your mobility or range of motion? This should be, the way we can do this is by working on this within your resistance training, or actually holding you accountable to better techniques, better range of motion, better symmetry within your S&C work, which is, again, massive part of improving your mobility over time. Number two, guys, is making sure you have relatively good conditioning or strength conditioning across all the major muscle groups that kind of get that lead in towards the knee. It's kind of, you may look in the mirror and you've got pretty good quad development. You may be able to see your VMO, your vastus lateralis run down the outside of your leg. You may be quite proud of the front side. Turn to the side. What does your profile look like? Do you have a pair of buttocks? Can you contract your hamstrings, and can you see the lines in your hamstrings? The reason I'm saying this, guys, is because a lot of endurance-based athletes simply lack posterior chain development. They don't have a great deal to offer, or they don't develop their hamstrings and their glutes specifically enough. They don't have a depth of conditioning in these muscle groups enough, and as a result, you're over leveraging the quadriceps, the hip flexor groups. You're placing an insane amount of workload through these on a week-to-week basis. Again, placing a hell of a lot of stress through the knee. Flip the narrative. Get more work going through the hamstrings and glutes. It's kind of one of those it's like it couldn't be any more layman's kind of. You just simply want to develop more strength and conditioning in those glutes and hamstrings to take the load off the front side of your leg. We're trying to balance the amount of stress that's going through the knee and all these major muscle groups that contribute into the knee. So above and below the hamstrings, the glutes, your adductor groups, your calves, your soleus, like your gastrocnemius, like those major muscle groups that are above and below your knee should be well developed. Do you have good conditioning, good capacity in those major muscle groups? Can you perform 25 plus single leg reps on each leg, calf raises, hamstring bridges, single leg squats? These are the standards that we hold everyone that we work with at SFE to, because you're providing a homeostatic kind of environment for that knee. When you place a hell of a lot of volume or a hell of a lot of intensity, whether it's speed or endurance through your major joints, you want it to be kind of working efficiently. If you have significantly weak hamstrings, what does that mean? Well, your body's not going to stop in its tracks. It's going to keep working, but to what degree? Like, where is it going to be compensating? It's going to be putting a lot more emphasis and load through those other major muscle groups, be leveraging them. Again, a lot of the quick results that we see in getting people back to running and moving past knee pain is getting that person or holding that person accountable to developing more strength and conditioning in their hamstrings, in their glutes. Why? Because, guys, they're the major contributing factor. If you've improved your mobility and joint symmetry, etc., with that first point that we made, then you're also developing the kind of your levels of kind of symmetrical strength and conditioning within those major muscle groups as that secondary point. Suddenly, you're working with a set of legs that are just working more efficiently. They're able to take more load, more distance, more volume, and mechanically do it more efficiently. So that has got to be right at the top. And for us, stripping it back, looking at those levels of strength and conditioning in those major muscle groups, got to be there. If you're working generically and just hoping it's working, you probably haven't got enough emphasis. There's not enough accountability in place. You haven't got enough of a buy-in, and that's why we screen everyone that we work with. Eccentric loading, number 3. Guys, if you want to develop, you want to move past pain, one of the best ways to kind of force your body to stabilize, to recruit, to just move more efficiently is to slow the movement down, especially on that lowering phase. So if you're doing a squat, a deadlift, a hip hinge, a single leg exercise, focus on the lowering phase, the lowering portion. A lot of people disengage, they switch off when they're doing squats, they just drop into it and then drive out of it, drop into it, drive out of it. And they do a step up, they'll step up, but then just collapse off the box. No more. Absolutely focus on the lowering portion, slow that repetition down. In a lot of our programming, we may prescribe a 1 second up with a 2 or 3 second descent. We're trying to force that kind of that longer contraction. You'll notice that there's a hell of a lot more engagement, right? Almost recruitment within those major muscle groups. You'll notice that your core, your glutes, your hamstrings, you're loading those muscle groups, placing more time under tension. You're just putting more emphasis on them on that range of motion and movement that you're asking it to do, and you'll notice that there's going to be weaknesses there. That is exactly what's going to help us load that tendon through the patellar tendon, etc., through the knee. It's going to help us to structurally improve the integrity of that capsule, of that knee. So, guys, develop the muscle groups, slow the repetitions down. Don't get too fancy with the movement to start with. Simple squat patterns, simple step-ups patterns. Develop the quality of the movement, and that's going to help by slowing the repetition down. Number 4, isolation. Now we're starting to build a picture. You've improved the range of motion. We're starting to bring some more symmetry to those major muscle groups. You've got a greater level of conditioning in those major muscle groups. you'll notice actually your range of motion is improving because you've improved the quality of the muscle tissue. And so you're noticing actually you've got more, your range of motion is getting more mobile, you've got more flexibility because you're improving the quality of the actual tissue. You've improved its strength conditioning. You've then obviously gone into that eccentric loading, you're slowing the movement down, you've reinforced good technique by slowing things down, bullying those aspects. Now we're thinking about isolation. Okay, right, now let's start to bully this area, right? And we're talking about things like, going back into those single leg variations. Where can we be kind of putting more kind of lateral loads through the knee, moving into lateral kind of step outs? Maybe we're bringing in some form of lateral lunges, bringing in Patrick step downs, things where we're kind of specifically placing different loads and intensities through different aspects by working in different planes of motion. Placing a Patrick step down is literally you're kind of placing more load. You're putting the knee over toe, which is obviously goes against that age-old myth that you can't place your knee over toe. That's BS. We're not limited by anything really. If you're performing a reverse Nordic where you're literally kneeling down and then literally keeping your hips extended, you're leaning back, placing a wonderful stretch going through the quadriceps. Some of you won't be able to get very far at all. But guys, if you've got great range of motion and great strength conditioning through your lower body, but there's people out there that can put the back of their head on the ground. And so you imagine that you're kneeling down, leaning back, you're able to extend back, and you're able to put those fantastic range of motion through your quadriceps. It's just the fact is, most people lack that range of motion. They've never been challenged on kind of developing this strength conditioning through their legs. And they've just allowed things to compound, tighten up, and becomes to a point where things almost are seemingly impossible. It's just because you've never used your legs that way. And we want to be able to move through these greater range of motion. Some of the biggest, like on social media right now, Nordic hamstring curls have come to the forefront for this exact reason. Like they're probably one of the hardest exercises you will ever likely to do with body weight. And it's seemingly impossible for someone to be able to contract your hamstrings and be able to kind of hinge, touch the floor, and then leverage yourself back up. But it's not impossible. It's just people don't realize how powerful and how strong your hamstrings can be. But if you put the right type of work, that hamstring strength will then support the knee, and it removes these irritable knee pain. Yeah. As we move forward, skill development, working on your plyometrics, this has to be in there. But you've earned the right to get to this place where we start to then work on these low-level plyometrics. We are starting to really explore this range of motion. We're starting to explore how we put more loads, more intensities, more force production through the legs into the knees. And we've got to reacclimatize our body, in sense of double leg, single leg drills, starting off with a very low yield, low kind of efforts. But you're just putting more force and working on your landing mechanics, landing stiff but soft. You're not hitting the ground like a bloody elephant. You're hitting it you're landing like a cat, ready to pounce and jump again. We lose these athletic qualities. These are something that we can train back into our body. You build more confidence back in, so you can trust your feet again, trust your knee again. And this is kind of how we reacclimatize our body. You've got 5 things to go, guys. There's a logical progression to those things. I challenge you to make sure that you have these things in your week-to-week programming on literally, and probably within the day-to-day programming in some extent. Within your pre-run, pre-S&C work, you want to be bringing these types of drills, these exercises within throughout the week, developing and progressively increasing the complexity, the loading of this. You're going to start to notice big differences. Footwear. Guys, it's kind of an obvious consideration. Find consistency with your footwear. Minimalist shoe when doing your rehab and your S&C work, so your feet can feel the ground. And then find a consistent shoe to be kind of building your running back in. Okay, don't keep flirting with different shoes, because this can be a big one, and this is something we can explore in another podcast episode. But guys, that's how we eradicate knee pain over time. That's how we get people back to running very quickly. I want you guys to be taking away a few things from today's podcast, and any questions, as always, get in touch, let us know. Speak soon.